trying to engineer a civil war in order to introduce way more draconian measures, because that's what they do. It's problem, reaction, solution. Again, why do they let those small boats turn up every day? Why do they take them to hotels? Why do they send the RNLI and the Navy in to fish them out of the sea in the boats? Why do they do that? They could stop it tomorrow. They could just say, no, we're not going to let you in, and tow them back to France. It's France. Anyway, it's France, like everybody keeps saying. It doesn't, none of it makes sense, Dan. And that's why I sit there thinking there must be a reason for it. And it's either the civil war, so they can introduce new measures, or they're recruiting an army to control the population when chaos ensues.
Well, I was going to say, they are laughing at us, literally laughing and guffawing in our faces. We saw it with Calamity Lammy yesterday as they destroy the last vestiges of what made the United Kingdom the greatest place on earth. The Deputy Prime Minister's reaction to his department's total incompetence, which saw infamous child sex offender Habush Kaboto, the man who caused the epic outrage, free on the streets of London, was sickening. But it's not a surprise. They are metaphorically laughing in our face and spitting on our countrymen's graves every single damn day. So last night, a 22-year-old Afghan migrant stabbed 3 people, including, according to eyewitnesses, a dog walker in Uxbridge, London, leaving a 48-year-old dead and 2 others with life-changing injuries. How long are we going to put up with this? How long? This eyewitness, Ben James, summed up the feelings of many.
The property of Afghan descent coming out of the HMO property. I know someone on the road, like I said, there was quite loud shouting and screaming, but when I got to the scene, all I saw was piles of blood.
And obviously, I mean, it must have been very traumatic to see injured people lying in the street.
It's horrible, but it's what we're getting used to around here. It's happening far too much, and the government needs to put an end to it.
And I mean, in terms of this local area, you live locally to see this kind of really horrific event unfolding in the local area as well. I mean, obviously, it's got to be distressing.
It's very distressing, but what's worse about it? Well, it's not becoming shocking no more. It's like becoming the norm, and that's what's really terrifying. If this happened 5-6 years ago, everyone would be screaming and be uproar, but now it's just becoming like the normal, and that's what's scary about it, really scary.
It is, but we cannot let it be normal. We cannot normalise this. One of those stabbed was a 14-year-old. Let that sink in, get angry, and never let those laughing in our face like David Lammy forget. But this all gets worse, of course, because there is now quite clearly an Islamo-left plot to take over the United Kingdom, and the elite class and the MSM intend to look away. But in the Islamist media, that intention is now being made abundantly clear, and unapologetically too.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, today we're at Alta Bali Park. We're here to interview some people. So I can ask some questions, brother? Yeah. Alright. What message do you want to give to the far-right people?
The message I want to give to the far-right people is we're here to take over your country. You can't stop us. You can try, but we're here to uphold Sharia law, and yeah, that's it.
You can't stop us. You can try, but we're here to impose Sharia law. That was one of the men taking part in the scenes that we saw on the streets of East London this weekend. As Pink Ladies leader Ollie Minehane put it, are you terrified? You should be. We are. According to some councils, this government and the deranged left, we, referring to the Pink Ladies, are the problem. The Islamists, of course, made it clear They're not on the same side as the woke, wet, lefty lovies who are engaging in suicidal empathy.
No need for that. We're on the same side, bro.
No, we're not.
Yes, we are, bro.
Aja the Empress raged. A mob of men in black blocks and balaclavas waving foreign flags, marching through my city, the capital of the UK, with not a single police officer in sight. How can anyone be okay with this? I'm not even close. This isn't protest, it's intimidation, it's a warning shot right in the heart of our capital. While those meant to uphold order stand by and do nothing. And if you think this is fine, you're fooling yourself. This isn't harmless, it's a show of dominance, a takeover right before our eyes. And my friend, former GB News colleague Colin Brazier, newly of Reform UK, argued when the balkanisation of Britain means some of our cities become essentially ungovernable, people will ask, where are the warnings? Where were the warnings? The reality is that there are grim punctuation marks in our island story that are routinely ignored by our establishment. Reform calls them out. And in fairness, Nigel Farage has been the only one brave enough amongst our party leaders in Westminster to call out those scenes at the Weekend Watch.
Extremism in Britain. Think about this. Last Saturday, a march was planned, an anti-Islamic extremism march was planned. Have a look at what happened in response. Here we see large numbers of men, mostly young men, all men, no women, wearing a black style uniform, many with face masks, marching almost like an army, aggressively through the streets of East London. I think these are some of the most frightening scenes I've ever seen in this country. And I say that particularly because every calm day we had a lot more young men of fighting age coming into our country who've thrown away their documents, so we've no idea who they really are. But here's the really interesting bit. Joining them on the demo were the hard left Stand Up to Racism group. And have a look at this exchange.
There's no need for that. We're on the same side, bro.
No, we're not.
Yes, we are, bro.
We're on the same side. No, we're not. And this is the point. Some of the left in this country have got this nutty idea that those that are moving towards hardline Islamic extremism are on the same side as they are, and they're not. What they were chanting, what the group of men in black were chanting, was strong, anti-Zionist, very clearly anti-Jewish, praising their own martyrs, by which they mean those engaged in war against Jews and the Israelis. It was outright racism on the streets of London. The protest against extremism is banned, and yet those that march in response display open racism and open extremism, and the police do absolutely nothing. That, folks, is two-tier Britain. That, folks, is the scary situation that we're in, and we all need to wake up to the truth.
And while I support what Nigel said there, sadly, the channel in which he is a shareholder, GB News, continuously lets itself down by letting hard leftists make revolting slurs against patriots like UKIP leader Nick Tenconi. Watch. Big news! Outspoken is now available as a podcast too. So please do subscribe wherever you get yours, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and make sure you rate and review. I'll take 5 stars, if you may.
What UKIP is today bears little resemblance to the party Farage led. The guy that is the leader of UKIP has repeatedly done Nazi salutes on the streets and seems to revel in doing so. He is a religious fanatic. And so I think they may well have had the intention to try and rile up tensions in Tower Hamlets. And therefore, I think it's probably legitimate to say that that's not a fair protest.
He might have been more or less of a religious fanatic than some of the other chaps we saw out there on the street.
Well, this is actually my point, right? right. You know, those people would appear to be Islamists. They're certainly dressed like thugs. They're trying to intimidate people. And so I don't think multiculturalism has failed, but we're failing the success of modern Britain by presenting either those intimidating thugs or the religious bigoted fanatics that are now in charge of UKIP. Neither of those are in the spirit of Britain.
Has absolutely failed. It was a grave mistake that has destroyed social cohesion.
Nick has never given a Nazi salute, and he behaved completely appropriately at the weekend. Indeed, it was Narinder Kaur who defied the police.
I want her arrested. She is a member of Stand Up to Racism, and she is in the exclusion zone. Arrest her!
Yep, loving the attention. Loving the attention of the race grift, but Nick isn't taking it lying down, writing, Benjamin Butterworth just added his name to the long list of screw-ups who will be getting sued for me for defamation. I have never done a Nazi salute. How dare you? A closed fist gesture is not a Nazi salute. So Black Lives Matter protesters are all Nazis, are they? Calling Catholics religious bigoted fanatics for being devout followers of Christ is absolutely disgraceful. You will learn the hard way, it would seem. But what's clear is that even those who don't support UKIP's hardline approach, like Brendan O'Neill of Spiked Online, for example, concede that the Islamo left is now on the march in Britain. He wrote the protests in Whitechapel exposed the suicidal idiocy of leftists who cozy up to Islamism. The anti-UKIP counter-demo in Whitechapel was not an anti-racism march. We all know it. The dogs on the street know it. It was an orgy of intolerance, doled up as tolerance. It was a display of Islamist arrogance wearing the thin veil of anti-racism to fool overeducated idiots. The left is marching with its own grave diggers, with people who would happily outlaw homosexuality and condemn women to a benighted life in misogynist garments. What could possibly unite the blue hairs of the middle-class left with these black masked Islamists? That's the truly chilling question. But what's most shocking to me is that the left have completely ignored pretty much the start of civil war in East London to focus on one line from Sarah Pochin, who was making a point about the woke, diversity-obsessed advertising industry in the UK, which we all know is a real thing, right?
It drives me mad when I see adverts full of black people, full of Asian people, full of, you know, people that basically are anything.
What's wrong with that, Sarah? What's wrong with that?
Well, it doesn't reflect our society, and I feel that you know, your average white person, average white family is like, I agree with you, Stuart, not represented anymore in TV.
There are lots of white people on television, Sarah, are there not? There are lots of white people. There are lots of white men. There are lots of white women.
We're talking about adverts, and how many times do you look at a TV advert and you think there's not a single white person on it?
So today, James O'Brien, that cretin, was totally happy to bully Pochin while ignoring the very real race war going on just miles from his cosy LBC studio.
This hideous woman complaining about the number of brown and black faces in television advertisements. In a country where, 30 years ago you'd never see one? No one really seems to have made that point. No one really seems to have made the point that if you have any knowledge at all of how the advertising industry works, the idea that people would be sitting around a table on whatever the British equivalent of Madison Avenue is and deliberately deciding to sell less product by putting people of colour in their adverts. It is one of the most ruthless and cynical industries on the planet. The attention economy, which in many ways pays my mortgage, is designed to shift as much stuff as is humanly possible. So that's not just a racist comment, it's a comment of unimpeachable stupidity. You're thick, you're racist, and you're weird. And I don't know what order to put that in. Don't underestimate the power of weird or the power of stupid. It's a hat-trick of horrors. Racist, stupid, weird.
The increasingly mad Nigel Nelson was dragged out by GB News to suggest Pochin had to be re-engineered by the state.
That's the issue.
Well, I don't know if she does. She says it
drives her mad.
It drives her mad seeing adverts of that nature. We don't know if she was saying it drives her mad that the people are black, or it drives her mad that the adverts, the direct quote was, it drives me mad when I see adverts full of black people, full of Asian people. Now, that you can interpret that as being racist, or you could say it drives me mad that adverts don't reflect reality, which they clearly don't.
Well, I mean, in Sarah's case, that clearly, well, in my mind, that is clearly a racist comment. Not that Sarah is racist, because it drives her mad to see black and Asian people in an advert. That's what she said. What I think should happen now is that Nigel Farage was right not to take the whip away as Labour demanded. What I do think Sarah should do is go on one of the courses that exists over in the House of Commons.
Oh, right. Well, she goes away for reprogramming. Go to the woke gulag. I mean, come off it.
I've met a number of MPs who reluctantly went on these courses, came back and said,
that was actually quite
reasonable.
The worst racism in Parliament is Sarah Pochin talking about TV ads, or some of the racism we see from some of the more fruity backbenchers around anti-Semitism, about Tel Aviv football fans, about signing petitions to keep Jews out of Britain? Is this really the correct focus for racism in politics, or is it just a smokescreen, a distraction?
I think that given that she apologised for her words afterwards, she obviously regrets them. She blurted them out. It wouldn't do any harm to go on one of these courses so she doesn't do it again.
For God's sake. Race baiter in chief Dawn Butler kept calling Sarah Pochin racist in Parliament. This is an anti-white racist sparking fury from the Deputy Speaker.
That comment is absolutely a racist comment. And if we cannot call that comment out in this House, that is in breach of the Nolan principles for MPs. And I want to know, Madam Deputy Speaker, if you can help me in ensuring that...
Order. For clarity's sake, it's the calling of a member of this House a racist.
It drives me mad when I see adverts full of black people and full of Asian people. It doesn't reflect society. Madam Deputy Speaker, that is a racist comment. And it is against the Nolan principles. And how can we ensure that members of Parliament abide by the Nolan principles?
It's not the comment that the honourable member is referring to. It's the fact that that she called the member a racist that is the issue. If you can please reflect on your remarks of calling a member of this House a racist and stick to the comments being a racist. It may be that she considers that that is dancing on the pin of her head, but it's important that we all act with respect and set an example to the country.
The comment is a racist comment. It's quite strange that I'm unable to call out the member for being a racist, having made a racist comment.
Order. Please, it's time and time again. Can you please consider withdrawing the comment about a member of this House being a racist?
And I don't want to be thrown out of Parliament again. So I will withdraw the fact that I am referring to the Member of Parliament as a racist because of her racist comments.
Oh my God, it's all a game. It's all a game. But first, as we get older, you notice it. After a cold day, hard workout, even a long week, recovery just isn't as quick as it used to be, right? That bounce back factor matters. And it turns out the secret isn't luck, it's stem cells. Your body's built-in repair crew. With age, that system slows down. Fewer cells, weaker signals, slower recovery. That's exactly why Qualia created Qualia Stem Cell. Think of it this way. Your cells are powerful. Qualia Stem Cell helps keep them that way. It's crafted with nature's heavy lifters, sea buckthorn, royal jelly, and more to support your body's natural repair system so you can keep moving, healing, and thriving. You don't have to accept slowing down. This is about supporting better aging by reactivating the systems that help you bounce back. And it's refreshingly simple. You take it just 4 days a month. So if you've ever felt like your body just doesn't bounce back like it used to, whether it's after a tough workout, getting sick, or just the wear and tear of life, this is for you. Qualia Stem Cell was designed to support your body's natural repair systems, helping you heal, recover, and keep going strong. And right now, you can try it for up to 50% off at qualialife.com/Dan. And here's a bonus. Use the code Dan for an additional 15% off your order. So that's QUALIA life.com/Dan. Your body's built to repair itself. Qualia just helps it do it that better. And a big thanks, by the way, to Qualia for sponsoring this episode of Outspoken. But now, back to the show. Emily Maitlis, she's going mad, by the way, of the fake news agents, even said this was all part of a Reform UK.
Sarah Pochin does something very useful for Reform, actually. And I didn't think I'd be saying this 2 days ago. But the fact that they sort of keep letting her go out there. She was the one that did the burqa should be banned statement the first time. She's the only female Reform MP. And she sort of gets out there, says something pretty ludicrous, which Reform then carefully distances themselves from. In other words, oh, she might say that, but that's not where the party is. The party is here. The party is, I think Farage is very aware that he doesn't want to be sort of in the burqa chat. He doesn't want to be in the racist chat. He doesn't want to be sort of in the outliers chat. He wants to try and make Reform look as if it's mainstream. But it is very helpful for him, for the party, to have somebody that is pushing at the door of racism the whole time, pushing at the door of, multi-ethnicity, pushing at the door of sort of deportation and all that kind of stuff, because this is how they work out where the public mood is. She is their canary. She's sent out, or she leaps out, and she goes much further than Reform would ever do on the day. But maybe she opens the door and maybe people start catching up, and maybe before you know it, you've got somebody else, jumping on the British adverts bandwagon. She's done the job for him.
Oh, my God. Ah, she's certifiable. Perhaps it's Nick Dixon who put it best, actually, by writing, "We are in a battle for our very survival against various forces hell-bent on destroying us, while these twerps think the problem is Sarah Pochin's remarks. It's like Tony Montana sat with his mountain of coke while the assassins are at the door." Ant Middleton, by the way, who was Sadiq Khan's biggest threat at the next London mayoral election, put it this way: why are we not allowed to be proud of our white heritage, to preserve and to protect it, just as all other cultures are encouraged to do theirs? Our white heritage is not a part of British culture, which has been over time eradicated from our history. It went way before my generation, and now they're doing the same with our faith and religious beliefs. If you can't see the death by 1,000 cuts strategy here, then you are either turning a blind eye or care not for your country and its heritage and history. I love that our countries, that other countries and cultures are really proud of their heritage and history. More power to them. Preserve it at all costs. However, never lose sight and be proud of your white heritage, culture and history. Never allow entitled victim mentality individuals to take that from you. I'm a proud white Englishman. My ancestors fought and died for your right to vote. I encouraged you to dig up photos from World War I and World War II of British troops, and something will become very apparent. And this is why the response from Nigel Farage to Sarah Pochin, it really did disappoint me.
The words that Sarah Pochin used in response to a caller into talk radio on Saturday morning were without ugly, and taken on their own, could be read to be very, very unpleasant indeed. I am unhappy with what she has done. I can't underestimate that, and she fully knows how I feel. The way she put it, the way she worded it, was wrong and was ugly.
As Rupert Lowe responded, Sarah Pochin had a point. White people are massively underrepresented right across society, very much including the advertising industry. Could she have worded it better? Yes, obviously. But Farage was wrong to throw her under the bus for it. A good leader supports their team even in difficult times. The media focus on this over the past few days has been insane. Don't submit to the mob. Certainly don't throw a colleague to the wolves to satisfy the pack. It will never work. And by the way, even Grok admits that Sarah Pochin was right. So yeah, Grok, right, said yes, Sarah Pochin correctly highlighted disproportionate representation in UK ads where black people appear in over 50% despite comprising 4% of the population. And the terrible things that are going on, and have been going on, by the way, for the past 5 years, are starting to be exposed. Andrew Murtha revealed some of the lengths woke companies like Sky go to in their bid to mainstream anti-white racism. He said, I can 100% say I was told to Photoshop out white people while working for Sky and replace them with people of colour. Whether or not she should apologise is up to her, but white people are being removed from the mainstream media because I've been told to do it. And I think this exchange between Larry the Cat, right, which is our hard leftist ex-accountant Jess Gill, sums things up well, because Larry the Cat said the purpose of adverts isn't to accurately reflect society, it's to sell things. That's not what they've been telling us, right, for the past decade. So Jess Gill said for years, they've been non-stop complaining about the lack of diversity and representation on TV. Now they've won by gaslighting us, saying it doesn't matter. British ads should have British people. We're fed up of being pushed aside and ignored in our own country. Now, Carol McGiffin is here. Wow, McGiff. So, this breaking news, another Afghan migrant murder. Could have been a lot worse. 3 stabbed. A horrifying scene emerging in Uxbridge. And yet, the mainstream media don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about the Islamo protests, if that's what we're going to call them. I'd say a declaration of war. But they want to talk about Sarah Pochin.
Of course they do. It's supreme gaslighting, isn't it? It's like, this is what's important now. The fact that someone has pointed out that recently, not just recently, I'd say over the last 4 or 5 years, it's been noticeable that there are people of colour. Don't want to get into trouble, do I, Dad? People of colour in TV advertisements, and it's noticeable. And it's not like it actually bothers me too much. It just, I have to ask the question, why? Why is it necessary? What pressure are the advertising companies bowing to? I mean, I'm sure they're not doing it because it's going to sell more things, because there are probably people all over the country that watch the adverts and go, oh, not again, because it does happen like that. But that's what the media want you to think is more important than someone getting stabbed on the street. Well, 3 people getting stabbed on the street in London. And
it's just a man, by the way. It's just a man, Carol. I was looking earlier at Sly News, and it's not an Afghan migrant. It's just a 22-year-old man. So there's so much gaslighting that goes on.
Yeah, well, exactly. Because if it had been a white man who had stabbed someone in Uxbridge, they would certainly let you know about that.
Oh, God forbid, an incel, that'd be all over it like a rash.
Exactly, but it's not when it's the other way around. And that poor guy was being interviewed. It's that's what's frightening, because the left and the media will tell you that this doesn't happen a lot, but it actually does. And that guy is saying, 6 years ago, people would have been up in arms. This would have been a really big story, but it's not a big story anymore because it happens so often. And it is it can't possibly be normalized, but it doesn't shock anybody anymore because it happens so often. You read about it all the time. And then you get Sadiq Khan standing up and saying, we've reduced knife crime. We've done this. The crime levels are down in London. It's like, really, it is laughable, but it's not funny.
Well, he also said there were no grooming gangs, didn't he? No Pakistani rape gangs in London. The Met Police have just reopened 9,000 cases. So he is a liar. And I want to know what you think about those scenes in London over the weekend. Because even though I criticised Nigel Farage for turning on Sarah Pochin, I loved the fact that he was the only mainstream party leader to actually describe this as what I believe it is, Carol, which is an invading army. And I mean, we heard the guy, right, in the Islamist media, in the Digest, who said very clearly, you know, we're here to take over. Sharia law is coming, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, the question to that guy was, what would you say to all the far right extremists? Well,
I guess he means you and me.
Yeah, where are they? They're all in prison, aren't they? For saying things that, like Sarah Pochin said. It's none of it makes sense at all. And I have no doubt that there are a lot of Islamists, radical Islamists especially, who would love to take over the UK and introduce Sharia law and wipe out the entire Jewish nation and all the Jews along with it. I mean, I do believe there are those people. I don't believe the majority of the Muslims in the UK are thinking along those lines. But the fact that they don't speak out against it is, you know, it's another telling thing. And it does make you wonder when they talk about the great replacement, it is something that I think is happening. And this is what I wonder how many of those people in that march, they were all masked, they were all wearing similar outfits, all got those very well organized banners and flags and everything else. How many of those did come over on the boats? How many of them are illegal immigrants? I wonder, because I've said to you for years now, it is the government who are the traffickers. They're the people traffickers.
Yes.
They're the criminal gangs. They're allowing this. They're facilitating this. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're paying for it to happen.
Well, how can we deny that now? How can we deny that now, Carol? Because it feels to me like they're importing their voters. They're importing the people who they want to keep them in power. But again, I think that's delusional, of course, because if you look at the Labour Party, they are now being outflanked by the Islamists on the very hard left. So it's a suicidal empathy going on. But by the way, I'm glad you didn't say the great replacement theory, because, you know, for many years, Carol, if you dared talk about this, you were definitely on the far right, right? you were
in prison.
Yeah, but it's not a theory. You know, it's not a theory. It's just a demographic fact. It's just an absolute demographic fact of the United Kingdom. So, yeah, just call it the Great Replacement. Great. I mean, I'm happy with that, because this is no longer a theory. It is happening. If people tell you it's not happening, then they're actually not speaking about a demographic reality. It's not a political point.
No, I don't, and I don't think it's really about importing voters either. I think it's.
What do you think it is?
I think it's the provocation that goes on towards the native, I suppose, the white population, the English people, even parties like Reform, you know, who weren't allowed to march and protest in Whitechapel, but then they allowed this mob to roam the streets. It's almost like they're trying to. I wouldn't be surprised if they were trying to engineer a civil war in order to introduce way more draconian measures, because that's what they do. It's problem, reaction, solution. Again, it's like, let's make this happen so that we can clamp down.
Starmer's already doing it with digital ID.
Well, digital ID, and don't forget, I think it was after the Unite the Kingdom rally that you were at, and Tommy Robinson was at, that famous super far right racist thug. God, anyone else says that, I'm just going to lamp them. And it was straight after that when they blatantly said, without laughing, 26 people were arrested. 26. And the march before that, which was a pro-Palestinian march, there were hundreds apparently. And it's like, you know, this 26 people, some of those people were on the opposing side, and quite a large proportion, I understand.
Yes, and they only clarified that later.
Yeah, and the Home Secretary afterwards straight away says, we've got to clamp down on these repeating marches. And it's every week you see pro-Palestinian, anti-Jewish marches going on in the streets of London. So they don't want to clamp down on those marches, they want to clamp down on the ones that are disagreeing with the government, you know, the ones that you or I might attend, the UK rallies. I mean, they will do it. They will do it. They'll find a way to do it, because that's the only way they get to control the population. And the reason for doing that, no one really knows why they want to do that, or they're hell bent on doing it. But it must have something to do with the financial system. We all know that that's in trouble, and there's going to be a collapse soon. And when people can't get their money, there's going to be, I mean, it's just going to be chaos. And they will need an army on the streets to control people. And I know I might sound like I'm mad and overthinking all of this, but when you look at the stuff and you can see it with your own eyes, and you can hear things with your own ears. And you know what George Orwell said, the final command in 1984 was ignore the evidence of your eyes and ears. And it was their final most important command, or something like that. And that's exactly what they're trying to tell you to do. But if you really open your eyes and you really listen to what people are saying, you have to ask the questions. Why would they be doing that? Why do they let those small boats turn up every day? Why do they take them to hotels? Why do they send the RNLI and the Navy in to fish them out of the sea in the boats? Why do they do that? They could stop it tomorrow. They could just say, no, we're not going to let you in, and tow them back to France. It's France. Anyway, it's France, like everybody keeps saying. It doesn't, none of it makes sense, Dan. And that's why I sit there thinking there must be a reason for it. And it's either the Civil War, so they can introduce new measures, or they're recruiting an army to control the population when chaos ensues.
Well, I was going to say, or something even more terrifying. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source, and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.